name is Vinnie Jones, and I'm going to teach you a lesson you'll never forget. There are times in life when being tough comes in handy. Say some geezer collapses in front of you. What do? We need a volunteer that ain't breathing. Here's one I made earlier.
The reason we ran the Vinnie Jones campaign is that we wanted to create a nation of lifesavers. We basically wanted people, if they saw somebody, if they suspected somebody had had a cardiac arrest, that they would run through the right sequence, check everything's okay, call 999, then jump in and do the resuscitation.
My research takes me to many countries in the world, and everywhere I see people following what celebrities say for their health matters.
Stephen Hoffman and Charlie Tan's recent research surveys the benefits and harms celebrities can do to our health, and they ask, why are we so keen to follow their lead?
Why do people entrust celebrities with what matters most, their health, to people who make believe for a living? Shouldn't they be instead trusting what the best available research evidence says and what their doctors tell them?
The downsides of working with celebrities in terms of the celebrity becoming bigger than the message within the ad, or potentially anything they do outside of the campaign that goes against their message they're giving, there's always that potential. So I think it is a case-by-case basis. In this particular campaign, we didn't suffer any of those pitfalls that you can find working with celebrities.
Vinnie Jones was sharing the British Heart Foundation's advice about CPR. But other celebrities have made influential statements not based on expert advice.
Angelina Jolie, in May of 2013, published an op-ed in the New York Times revealing that she herself had done genetic testing to find that she had the particular gene that was more likely to lead to breast cancer, and it was something that went in her family. And so she had announced that she took what many people called the courageous step of undertaking and having a double mastectomy. But what's happened as a result of that is we hear from genetic counselors, particularly in the United States, a mass increase in the number of people seeking similar genetic testing. The challenge, of course, is that so much of this testing is unnecessary.
Kylie Minogue developed breast cancer in her 30s. Now, it's actually very rare for women to develop breast cancer that young. But there is a subgroup of women who have a certain genetic predisposition to breast cancer who do develop it.
In 4 Australian states, demand for breast screening increased 40% following her announcement.
A lot of young people who really weren't at any increased risk decided that they needed to go and be screened. And there are downsides to screening as well as any potential benefits. Because if overdiagnosis occurs, you then embed a worry in the person who has been overdiagnosed, which may stay with them for all of the rest of their life.
My colleague Charlie Tan and I were curious as to why do people follow celebrities' health advice. So we delved into 4 disciplines. We looked at what economics says, we looked at what psychology says, what marketing, and then what sociology might tell us about why it is that we actually trust celebrities when it just doesn't make sense at all. Celebrities can act as signals when they attach their identity to products. It then differentiates those products from others. Or that by celebrities endorsing something, it can create a herd behavior. So if a celebrity is doing it and others are doing it, we tend to want to follow. There's classical conditioning, whereby we get to buy a product and we get to experience it. We're naturally, psychologically, feeling the positive association that we might have for a particular celebrity that we really like. And there's the idea of social capital, how we might not be able to become a celebrity, but if we do get something that a celebrity has told us we should really be having, then we might be able to get the benefits or feel those benefits. One thing that's clear from this research is that it seems that we as humans are biologically, psychologically, and socially hardwired to trust celebrities' health advice. That halo, that glow from celebrities is just so powerful that we just can't resist ourselves from just following whatever they say.
The really mass market for hard sell health advice is all about ideas and products we consume hoping to benefit our health.
There's many examples of celebrities promoting pseudoscientific activities or kind of health activities that have very little evidence. Now, some of this stuff is just part of celebrity culture, and that really good example of that is the diets. Every single year there are literally dozens of new celebrity diets. almost all of these have no scientific basis behind them.
Indeed, so relentless is the arrival of new diets that the British Dietetic Association have an annual Christmas campaign against the top 5 bad diets recommended by celebrities. Julia Bellus is a health journalist who often works closely with Stephen Hoffman.
We have evidence that shows that something like 50% of us don't even take medications as our doctors prescribe, and yet we're willing to put our health in the hands of people who make believe for a living. So this year, Gwyneth Paltrow was promoting food sensitivity testing, which is a costly procedure, and it has no good evidence to back it up.
Actor Suzanne Summers advocates her own brand of celebrity medicine. She calls for bioidentical hormone therapy to reverse aging and proteolytic enzyme therapy to fight pancreatic cancer. Neither of these treatments have evidence to show effectiveness. And this is really frustrating because we're trying to get people to take charge of their health and do what's right in light of the evidence.
So if we believe these celebrities, we'd have answers for the obesity crisis, we'd be able to reverse aging. It's really miraculous stuff. If only it were true.
For whatever reason, many celebrities seem to sort of embrace complementary and alternative medicine. Homeopathy is a really good example of that.
Our own royal family has a scientifically nonsensical view of homeopathy, but at least their advice doesn't do active harm. But sometimes even famous doctors, if their recommendations are not based on the evidence, can do real harm.
There's a very famous American pediatrician called Dr. Spock. Dr. Spock wrote a baby and childcare book which became incredibly well known. In the early editions of that book, he recommended that parents put their babies to sleep on their fronts. It turns out that that advice was lethally wrong. Tens of thousands of babies died from cot deaths as a result of that advice.
In this case, it took a campaign fronted by a non-medic to change that bad practice.
A celebrity who was very important in bringing about that change was Anne Diamond, whose son had in fact died in infancy.
Cot death is comparatively rare, but there are few things more tragic. Recent research has shown that if babies are laid down to sleep on their back or side, the risk of cot death can be greatly reduced. The Department of Health's new leaflet explains how anyone who looks after a young baby can help reduce the risk of cot death.
What happened after the initial Back to Sleep campaign was this dramatic fall in numbers of deaths. The numbers of cot deaths across the country, and indeed in every other country where a similar campaign has happened, fell by about 60 or 70%.
And so it's really interesting how that example is where you have a famous pediatrician, a doctor, who's, in light of so little evidence, advising parents to do one thing. And it actually took a celebrity to let the world know that actually the evidence says something else.
There are celebrity medics today who put entertainment before evidence.
Dr. Oz is someone who's called America's Doctor. He has a TV show reaching around 4 million Americans. And on that show, he promotes various health advice based on what's the latest breakthrough miracle cures that every American needs to know, apparently.
Dr. Oz, he's promoted a litany of weight loss miracles and magic like Garcinia cambogia and green coffee beans, which will supposedly bust your belly fat for good, he likes to say. When you actually look at the science behind them, either it's really flawed and methodologically poor quality studies, or the science just doesn't back up the claims that he's making.
My colleague Julia Bellus and I asked Dr. Oz, how is it that he has a show where he's mixing science and sizzle?
Dr. Oz has no financial interest in the products which feature on his show, and he told the researchers he believes at least 75% of his content is based on hard scientific evidence, while he thinks the other 25% is potentially plausible, but maybe less robust.
And it's that 25% that really gets me worried. Dr. Oz is a board-certified surgeon, vice chair of the Department of Surgery at Columbia University. He has all the right credentials, and yet he as a doctor is behaving more like a celebrity than even some celebrities. British television presenter Michael Parkinson announced that he had prostate cancer and tried to make people aware about the dangers of that disease and the need to be diagnosed. But he promoted a self-diagnostic technique, saying that if men were able to pee from 2 feet away on a wall, then they didn't have prostate cancer. And yes, maybe in some cases of prostate cancer that might be the case. But that as a self-diagnostic technique is just not evidence-based. That can be a very dangerous and harmful thing.
You know, the Hoffman paper, I think, is fascinating. And it's one of those papers where you think, this should have been written a long time ago. What I love about it is it really raises the awareness of this issue. It seems trivial, right? It seems like it's a fun topic, but it really is important. Celebrity culture is clearly having an impact. This matters.
You push hard and fast here on the sovereign to staying alive. Remember, call 999. Push hard and fast to staying alive.
40 people were around after their cardiac arrest because of the campaign, which is just, it's a phenomenal success.
It's funny because a lot of people think, oh, I'm anti-celebrity or something. I'm not at all. First of all, I love pop culture. I'm fascinated by it. And I think everyone is, even if they don't like to admit it. Everyone follows it. And you know what? You can't help it. It's everywhere.
Celebrities must know that they have such a huge fan base and people who are following them. In fact, so much of their job as celebrities is to nurture that. And so they need to be checking out evidence and making sure that when they say something, it really is based on the best available evidence, or at the very least, it's not something that can cause harm and is not going to dupe people into buying things that they can't afford or that would have no effect.
There are times in life where being tough comes in handy. Say some geezer collapses in front of you.